Jean-Pierre Lacroix, and I'm president of SLD, a global brand consulting firm that specializes in brand transformation, in helping develop unique positions for products and services in both domestic and foreign marketplaces. I'm very excited about sharing with you today a workshop on how to effectively position your brand in foreign markets. If you look at the success of brands like Toyota and Sony, Apple, to name just a few, it's interesting to note that their success has been the ability of clearly having a point of difference in the foreign expansion markets through either reflecting the core position of their brand value proposition or by learning from the expansion markets through white labeling. If you look at Sony and the automotive industry in Japan, they grew by developing white label services and products for their expansion markets so they can learn what sells, what features do well amongst the consumers, what category or product sells well. And through that learning, they've created a platform of knowledge and understanding that allow them to enter the market under their own brand at a later date. I'm going to share with you some processes, steps that you need to consider when you're looking at taking your product, the success of your brand in your mother country, and exporting it into foreign markets where your brand may not have the level of awareness or drive or understanding, and positioning plays a vital role in doing that. And to enter a foreign market, what is really important to understand is that you're going to succeed by having a clear point of difference. Being a Me Too product can only lead to a lack of differentiation, a lack of value, and a stronger struggle to be able to grow your market share in those foreign markets. We're going to talk a little bit about these different strategies. So when you look at Porter's competitive advantage, there are 4 areas that you can compete effectively. You can be cost leadership. If you think of Chinese manufacturers manufacturing products for the North American industry, if you think of Walmart, they have cost leadership. They are the lowest priced value proposition in the marketplace. They compete on price and price alone. That's a very hard place to compete with in foreign markets for many reasons. Obviously, labor cost, cost of distribution, and scale. Scale plays a really important factor in being cost leadership. Next to it is differentiation. This is the real opportunity for brands like yourself to enter in a foreign market. Differentiation can be done in what is unique about your product, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in subsequent slides. And then there's another dimension, which is the bottom right-hand quadrant, and that is what we call focus differentiation. You may identify a specific niche in the marketplace that is being underserved by other brands and own that niche. Then obviously at the bottom is cost focus, and that's truly looking at finding the best margin, lowest cost, but it's not a strong differentiation factor. You will not win with a cost focus only strategy. So let's look at that. So if you're looking at focus as one of those competitive advantages, you need to meet an unmet customer need. You really need to fill a white space that the marketplace currently is not delivering. And you do that by looking at what are the product categories that you're competing with, what are the features and benefits that those products offer, and where are there gaps that customers are looking for. The second factor in differentiation that you may want to think about is stronger value proposition than incumbents. And that value proposition could be an emotional one. It could be badge value, similar to how premium brands have succeeded well in the North American market by becoming a badge for how people see themselves, a mirror of their self-image. Then the last is cost leadership. We talked about that. It's about becoming the lowest cost provider within the category, giving consumers equal quality, equal features versus the national brand or the foreign market brand with a lower cost. So if you think of Tesla, they have a focused strategy in their global expansion. Have done extremely well. If you look at their stock and their sales, they're meeting the need of the average consumer to be able to deliver an affordable luxury car that's electric. They wanted to dominate the electric car market, the hybrid market, the electric car market, and they developed a focus around that one unique product offering. If you think of Apple, global brand, they're all about differentiating. Their whole mantra is think differently, right? They're providing an ecosystem, a digital ecosystem to consumers around the world, from smartphones to tablets to computers. And they're competing on kind of the upscale premium level brands with a different lifestyle, different communication, different ecosystem. And if you think of Walmart, they're the low-cost provider globally. They built their entire platform on developing and offering a customer experience that is the lowest cost. They're basically democratizing value for consumers around the world. I think what's really important is that irrespective if you're a focused differentiation or cost leadership, you really need to own an emotional connection with the consumer. Consumers don't buy through their head, they buy through their heart. And having that connection between the customer's wallet and their heart is critical. And that's what delivers a strong position in the marketplace. It has strong proof points that support the rational side of the purchase decision for customers, why they can justify purchasing your product from competitors. And secondly, that it talks to the emotional needs, affirmation of their lifestyle needs, their aspiration for a better life, all these key factors that are emotionally driven. And this is important because 80% of all buying decisions are emotionally driven. So don't underestimate the importance of understanding what are the emotional triggers in your category that would drive the purchase. So let's talk first about what is positioning. You know, if we're going to look at differentiating ourselves in the marketplace, we need to first understand what is the foundation of that differentiation, and that is positioning. Positioning is really more than a logo or a tagline. It's really reflecting the self-image of the consumer. It's a mirror of their lifestyle and aspirational needs, linking their aspirational needs to what you offer in the marketplace. So as you look at foreign markets, it's really important to understand what are those emotional needs consumers have, and how can your product or service fulfill those needs. And then it's also important to allow this emotional need, this position, to be unified across all, we call this brand coherence, across all of the consumer touch point moments. It's really important that you're consistent. You don't have the funds to spend millions and millions of dollars on building your brand. So whatever you do, it's really important that every time the consumer comes in touch with your social media, your website, or merchandising in the stores, that you're saying the same message linked to the position. So some of the key success factors in positioning is, first of all, it starts from the inside out. Your organization needs to live the brand promise. It needs to have confidence in this position. Your sales force needs to be able to articulate effectively what your brand position and value proposition is. It has to start from the inside. It has to be coherently applied across all those moments of truth consistently, but it has to start from the inside. And why positioning is so important? It provides a very strong platform to separate what makes you unique from all of the other options in the marketplace. You may be entering a foreign market where there's well-established competitors that have built a strong platform, strong market share. And your job is really to create a disruptive force in that marketplace, shifting consumer behaviors and attitudes towards your product. That takes a lot of effort. And part of that effort is having a clear point of difference, providing a rationale to consumers why your brand is different than your competition. Finally, positioning is all about aligning the customer needs. It's aligning what the customer is trying to achieve in their life with what you're trying to achieve in the marketplace. It's ensuring that those elements are aligned, because without that alignment, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to sell your product to the consumers, explaining who you are, and there's going to be a disconnect. And this is where a lot of brands fail in the marketplace. When they enter foreign markets, there's a lack of alignment between what the customer needs are and what the organizational is trying to sell. So we have a model around alignment and positioning. I'm going to share this model with you. It starts with the position at the core. On one side, you need to look at what are the consumer key drivers? What are the factors driving the needs of consumers? What are their priorities in your category? And what are their needs? And on the flip side of that equation is you, the organization. What are your brand needs and your priorities? And how do these align with the consumer? And so you look at what is the consumer's brand experience? What are they looking for? Because it's not just buying a product or a service. They're looking for an experience, a relationship with that brand that goes from the time they're doing the research to the time after they made the purchase and using your product. From your standpoint, what is your brand experience? And what is your brand proposition? And what is your brand values? And how do these two align to the consumer? And we believe that this alignment, which is at the core of the positioning, is based on 3 levers of change. I'm going to talk about those. There's process. Process could be how to differentiate the way our product is used by consumers. Maybe you're eliminating a friction point in the customer journey, or maybe you're taking 2 steps out of the process that the incumbent brands are not delivering. Structure could be industrial design. It could be a product feature. It could be added features. It could be the materials you use in your product, bringing it to market. And then finally, messages. What is your position? How is it being communicated? What's the role of social marketing, online marketing, your sales force? What is the in-store merchandising message that you're communicating? What's the role of cause marketing and how do you engage with your employees to reinforce your brand position? It's when these 2 dimensions, the consumer needs and the company needs, through these 3 levels of change come together, that you have a strong position in the marketplace. So the first thing you need to do once you've established your brand position is to establish what is the market dynamics that you're entering in that market. And we call that the SWOT analysis. And this will also help guide your position. You create a framework for your position, your understanding what your position should be in that marketplace based on the position of your brand you have in the current market. And then you evaluate that position in 4 markers through this SWOT analysis, looking at your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities. Because what you really want to do is look at those white spaces. And the only way you can look at those white spaces is to look at what the current competitors are doing in those markets. So if you look at that dynamic, the SWOT analysis looks at the strengths, the opportunities, the weaknesses, and the threats. And this analysis allows you to look at each market differently and really get to the nuances of those markets and look at where are those weaknesses that you can leverage. Where are the weaknesses in your brand that you're going to need to overcome to succeed in that market? What are the strengths you need to amplify to make sure that the consumer aligns with your product and understands what are those features and benefits of your product that are relevant to them? What are the opportunities? What are those white spaces that have been capitalized on? And then what are the threats? And the threats can be beyond the competitive set. They could be challenge threats. They could be environmental threats. They could be governmental threats. These are aspects of the market that could blindside you and undermine the ability of you succeeding in that marketplace. So here I have a list of questions that I'll leave with you to take a look at. These questions, if you answer them, will help get to the core of what are your strengths and what are the opportunities that you can leverage. Also, what are the weaknesses that you have in your product, but also in the marketplace? Where are the vulnerabilities in the marketplace of your competitors that you can capitalize on? take advantage? And what are the threats that your competitors could do to you, but also that the marketplace that you're entering? It could be national pride. It could be that the channel has restrictions. For example, in India, if you're entering the India market, they don't have national chains. The network channel is made up of a lot of independents, which adds complexity and cost to how you would enter that marketplace. So these questions, if answered, helps to create a framework. And you need to answer these questions for yourself and for your key competitors in each of the markets you're entering. From the SWOT analysis, you look at what are the key insights and how do you link those key insights to our positioning model of message, process, and structure. Take a look at those, fill these questions up. This exercise should take you a week, week and a half to do, sometimes 2 weeks. It's very valuable to leverage online research, but to actually go to the market and do research yourself or hire a research firm to do the market analysis for you so that you have clarity on where are those opportunities, but also threats, and how do you leverage the strength of your brand in those marketplaces. So once you've done that, then how do you take those insights and then develop your position, the final position you're going to leverage in that marketplace? Well, we have a model we use. Positioning is about two things: the overall direction of your organization, then how does that get translated to day-to-day marketing activity? And the brand direction for us is the brand pyramid. It's the guiding light to where you want to take the brand long-term. It has long-term aspirations. And then the second element of that is how do you bring it to life through what we call the brand DNA. And this is how you leverage these elements for your marketing, your website, your brand personality. But it's the combination of these two elements, the brand direction and the brand DNA, that allows you to succeed in those marketplaces. We're going to get a little more detail in the next slide. So what is in the brand direction? Well, it starts with the brand vision. What is that audacious goal that you have that you will never attain? Maybe you want to be the global leader in a certain category, or you may want to own a certain feature globally. The brand vision that needs to be audacious. It needs to be something that you will never attain. Something that, however, that once you attain, it's very aspirational. Brand vision is the foundation of everything else that you want to achieve. It's your brand mantra. Supported by that is the brand mission. The brand mission is how are you going to achieve the vision? What are the steps you're going to take to achieve this vision in the marketplace? What are the things you need to put in place? And supported by that is the brand value. And the brand value is your value proposition. It answers the question, if somebody was to buy your product, what would be the rationale why they would buy your product? Or more importantly, if you were charging more for your product, how could the consumer rationalize to their spouse or to their employer why they made that investment in your product? Or finally, if your product didn't exist in the marketplace, what would consumers say they were missed once you were no longer there? And supporting the value proposition is brand pillars. And brand pillars are what we call the strategic imperatives. What are the timeless challenges you're solving for those consumers in that marketplace, that when you do that, you're also solving for yourself? And the strategic imperative, these brand pillars guide every part of your organization. How the product is made, what are the features of the product, how the product goes to market, how do you market that product, how do you partner with companies? All of these elements become part of these strategic imperatives of the brand pillar. On the flip side, which is the day-to-day activation of your brand vision, is the brand DNA. And the brand DNA represents, at the core of it, the brand essence. And the brand essence, if you take the brand direction and the brand position and you distill it into 2 or 3 words, right? And this is hard because it's easy to have paragraphs and paragraphs, what I call boilerplate statements about what the brand position is. It is much more difficult to get it to a razor sharp pinpoint statement about what is it that you stand for? What is it that this brand is that differentiates itself in the marketplace. And that's the brand essence. Then you have the brand position, which really talks about who's your target group. What are they looking for in the marketplace? How does your product fit those needs? And what's the rationale why your product fits those needs? And then the brand personalities, how do you bring all of these elements to life? If the brand was a person, a car, what would be the attributes of that brand? And this is important because it will drive your website, it'll drive your packaging, it'll drive your marketing. Are you going to be an expert? Are you going to be a joker? Are you going to be warm? Are you going to be cold? Are you going to be exclusive or inclusive? These all define how you're going to take your brand to market. And then the brand attributes are the brand proof points. They're the reason you can make a statement about your brand position. These are the proof points you're going to use in your marketing communication. They could be the history of the company. It could be certain features, patents you own, maybe market share that you have. These are all really important factors that provides the consumer a rational decision-making point of why they should select your brand. Then you take all these elements and you create a brand house. And the brand house distills these various facts, brand DNA and brand direction, into something more simpler that you can then share with your employees and you can share with your customers. And it starts with the brand attributes, the brand personality, which is the foundation of your brand, and then the pillars, and then the brand proposition, and then obviously the brand essence. And this is what you want to communicate as part of your sales presentation, storytelling about your brand. And these need to align to the needs and priorities of the customers in the markets you're competing in. So some of the strategic questions you need to answer in this process is you need to clearly define the brand attributes which are proprietary to you. You need to define the key brand timeless challenges that align to those of the core target group. These are your brand pillars. You need to define the brand personality. If that brand was a person, a car, how would you articulate what that person will look like? What are the attributes you would define that person? Then the value proposition is, clearly articulate why would somebody pay more for your brand? Specifically, if you're leveraging the focus or differentiation part of the positioning Venn diagram, you really need to have something that's relevant to your consumers, that they're willing to justify why they're buying your product. But also the brand vision needs to be audacious. So you need to have a long-term goal. And then in that vision, you need to link that to your position, but also how you're going to bring that to life through the mission statement, and then ultimately to the brand essence, which is really distilling everything that you've articulated as part of these different elements into the fewest words possible. And that concludes my presentation. To summarize, you need a clearly defined brand position. That brand position needs to reflect the needs of the marketplace, but it also needs to reflect the needs of the organization and those of the customer in those marketplace. And you can get a sense of what those needs are through a SWOT analysis, clearly identifying the strengths and weaknesses of your brand and those of your competitor, and the opportunities and threats in the marketplace. And through this analysis, you can then start the positioning process of how you're going to take your brand and position in the marketplace in these four markets, expansion markets, by understanding what is the brand essence, the value proposition, the brand pillars. By having clear focus through a brand essence and aligning that message across all of the brand touch points, only then can you be assured success in your foreign markets. I want to thank you very much and look forward to any comments or thoughts that you may have on this presentation. My name is Jean-Pierre Lacroix and I'm president of SLD. Take care.